Inazuma, a hostile, unwelcoming storm of pain, suffering, depression, and more. It's an anomaly compared to the other nations throughout Genshin, partially because of this aforementioned hostility. I saw a comment on my video about Liyue which said Inazuma felt like swimming in battery acid while your hands and feet are tied up. I agree. The island terrain, themes, characters, mechanics, and everything come together to show why Inazuma is a hostile anomaly. Let's go, spoilers for Genshin of course, and I hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe if you do. It's clear that the teams behind Inazuma and possibly the other nations were experimenting, it's just that the experimentation undergone wasn't that of any visible benefit. I mean, even getting to the nation is next to impossible without finishing certain prerequisites. Other places are free to visit whenever. Instead of talking on how to get there though, let's get into the good stuff. Inazuma is a land of islands, and every island is unique. While other nations have the strength of consistency, it's a little more flexible in Inazuma, which is ironic considering the Raiden Shogun's ambitions and personality. The only consistency displayed in this nation is the element of Electro, which is extremely present throughout. Honestly, the other only nation with its element on the forefront is probably Sumeru, but at least it has Dendro Grunner. For Inazuma, Electro Grunner are far less common than their Dendro counterpart, and almost every unique puzzle requires the element in general. At least the desert in Sumeru doesn't even need Dendro for most of its puzzles. Even the clingy Electro balls require the element, in contrast to Sumeru's sigils requiring no previous elemental effects. So back to the map, there's a boatload of empty space and quite literally boats to drive around. A lot of the exploration in Inazuma is centered around sailing between islands, and places like Sarumi Island are a fair distance away to begin with. It's an anomaly because of all these things, and even the design of the map is hostile. The terrain in Inazuma actively spreads out as it goes up, like a hopper in Minecraft. It causes climbing up mountainsides to be even more of a pain than in Liyue, and the amount of places you can get caught in water or fall large distances is astounding. This is a blooper of sorts because this isn't in the script, but it's interesting that you can't leave the first island until you finish the first Archon quest, or at least a part of it, which only adds to the restriction and hostile feel of the nation. I will say, it is quite a beautiful nation as well. Of course, having anything Japanese automatically makes it beautiful, but ironically, I think this beauty serves to amplify the hostility clearly laid throughout the nation. Seeing beautiful cherry blossoms and glowing blue plants overtaken by storms and gloomy lighting causes this place to feel twisted and unfamiliar. The game takes a turn from fantasy to reality real quick, and it likes to show twisted deformities on that fantasy the game shows so often. I guess it's subversive in a way, even being locked off in a game that actively promotes exploration, as I said. Green does mean safety, pink does too, and of course purple represents stuff such as radiation and inherently unsafe places that were once safe. A lot of things use purple to represent poison, for example. The nation's design actively tries to make the player feel intimidated and pitted against the Raiden Shogun, as her power is contaminating an otherwise safe place. Also, Inazuma definitely has the most gloomy and screwed up places. Don't forget Enkanamiya, which, instead of being loathing and sad like the Chasm and Dragonspine, is outright deadly, aggressive and foreign. Inazuma is hostile, and always will be. It goes against the grain to do this, and that's why it's always goddamn storming. Man, that's just suffering. All the time. I skimmed over this earlier in the environment section, but this gameplay actively tries to get rid of you. Literally. You need to actively prepare and rise the ranks of Inazuma to get anywhere here, and while Sumeru kinda does that with the R&R quest in Golden Slumber, it's insane here. Let's look into it, at least the stuff I know of. Firstly, let's look into the general difficulty. I mentioned how annoying it is to climb up on the mountains, but then check out the constant lightning storms that are area locked. I don't mean the areas that require specific levels of Electro Grunner that you can only obtain by exploring even more, or those trees that constantly strike you with lightning when you go near them. No, I mean the areas that always rain. Of course, places like the Oceanid's Arena and parts of Avidya Forest have this as a quirk, but god damn it is prevalent in Inazuma. Nation of Thunder and Lightning, sure. Nation of Eternity, so eternal weather conditions, okay. Get it, but damn it's hostile. Not saying any of this is bad, it's just that the stuff I've mentioned thus far lines up accordingly with my statement. Inazuma is a hostile anomaly. It's hostile to outsiders due to what I said. You need to rank up your Electro Grunner, do world quests in places like Tadarasuna, Surumi and Seirai Island, alongside, as I haven't said in this part, needing some sort of connection to Electro. Every puzzle needs the element to some capacity, and even though each Electro Gundam can inflict some level of Electro, that's clearly intentional since around half or less of these puzzles require somebody affected by Electro rather than a direct application of it. Of course though, there's many cubes, elemental monuments, and more required application. However, every nation has some elemental exclusive puzzles. For example, for some reason, the Sumeru Desert, which should be about Dendro, has sand piles that require Anemo applications. Sorry if I rambled, but it's clear, just like how the nation is shut off to the public, so are the mechanics. It's an anomaly how gate-kept everything is when you don't meet a certain criteria, which isn't the same as other nations. Then again, I haven't been to Fontaine. Even besides the feeling of being an outsider, a contributing factor to this place's inherent hostility is the raw difficulty. The enemies themselves are crazy, the levels of said enemies are crazy, and for some sick reason, transport balloons are a thing in this nation. Transport balloons in a nation filled with psychotic samurai? No. No thank you. Inazuma is the definition of that out of bounds, out-leveled area only the strongest people make it to. Shockingly enough, it's not even halfway through the story of the game. Plenty of areas have the Bale Thunder quirk, which is just Dragon Spine but a little slower yet consecutive and with no equivalent of the torches in. Once again, Dragon Spine. No way to avoid it besides leaving, kinda like the Withering. In fact, in places like Seirai Island, there's a constant stream of thunder to boot which only makes it worse. I hope you get my point, it's just that the hostility scale is an anomaly in itself. Let's talk about the story and characters because there's a massive tone shift. I hope you like the passion I'm putting into this recording, I'm really trying. When Inazuma came out, it was clear that the tone of the story and the environments, based on everything I've already explained, changed. It's significantly more depressing, slow, and to an extent real. Much more real struggles are shown, and they even forced it to go through 2 different story quests for that level of reality and depth. However, for all anybody knew, this would be a permanent tone shift that would last till the end of the game, though when Sumeru was released, it was clear this was exclusive to Inazuma. I think it's worth mentioning that every nation in Genshin Impact leads a different atmosphere, though regardless of that, Inazuma is the most notable due to the position it holds in the story. It takes place after the most laid back and optimistic arcs of the story, and then throws you into what is currently the most depressing. Sure, Fontaine is a little dark as well, but it has untouched beauties to behold. Inazuma is tainted with blood spilled during countless battles, hunts and more. The hostility and dark turn as well separates it from Fontaine, as I was saying. This all makes Inazuma, once again, an anomaly. Look at the scenes of the Resistance battling the 3 commissions, Tepe and the others falling victim to the delusions that were created by Scaramouche, who himself has countless decades and even centuries of trauma, or the reality of the Vision Hunt decree. What makes this all even worse is this is all indirectly caused by the authority of the Raiden Shogun, who is the main antagonist of this part. The only chapters of the game thus far that have definitive single character antagonists throughout the whole arc is arguably Mondstadt and Inazuma. Sumeru has the Sages, but it just ain't the same in my opinion. With Mondstadt it has Storm Terror, but Storm Terror is being brainwashed by the Abyss. Raiden Shogun is doing these things of her own will, and slight pushing by other factions, but it is all revealed that she's aware of all this. This is the only nation with the Archon as the antagonist. Every nation has them as an objective, especially Sumeru, and some nations such as once again Sumeru along with Fontaine have the Archons being quite distant. Raiden Shogun is both of these things, but she is never a support or someone being supported by the Traveler, at least in the main story. When the Archon is the antagonist, the majority of the nation is the antagonist. Fontaine felt hostile as well, but eventually you befriend Neuvillette and therefore other characters such as Ridsley and Farina. Inazuma stays hostile. This, of course, makes it an anomaly, and makes it hostile. Have I nailed that in enough? Hope so. Inazuma is distant, depressing, and filled with war. Characters are united to an extent, though it's simply a suffocating uphill battle the whole time. Leisurely time isn't important when you're trying to rebel against a whole nation, right? Young Miko hard carried, let's be honest, and something else we should do is discuss the effects of half the title, the fact Inazuma is an anomaly.
Now then, close your eyes.
we can abolish the Vision Hunt Decree.
I've stated Inazuma is an anomaly. I've provided evidence of it, and even explained that the hostility only serves to further push that point. However, why? Is it still an anomaly within the newer drops of content? Let's dive in. I believe Inazuma is an anomaly due to one thing: experimenting. I've already said this in the first section. It seems the teams behind stuff like design and writing were trying to bring Genshin to a more realistic level of depth, but went a little overboard in Inazuma. Sumeru and anything after managed to round it out pretty well, but Inazuma will forever be flawed because of the imbalance presented. It's also rushed. Sumeru and anything after typically have 5 or more acts, but Inazuma tries to do the same thing with only 3. I'm not the only one to present this argument, but yeah, the Archon quests feel so damn slow, yet in places like Act 3 the story goes way too fast. Much like the tone, it's unbalanced. I'll always love the finale though, as it feels more like an epic one to me, at least for now. Characters like Kazuha using a second vision, or fighting the Shogun feels so awesome, does it not? Don't forget all the characters they didn't bother fleshing out. Yoimiya and Ayaka have a decent amount, but Toma, Goro, Kujo Sara, Kokomi, Yae and Raiden are all a little underdone. I'm okay with Scaramouche since Harbingers always come back, but come on, the others aren't going to, and they didn't come back. I'm sure they got a lot of characters outside of the Archon quests, but why is it that Childe, Childe, Zhongli and more have actually good writing? I don't know anymore, man. Even Diluc does. This might not be entirely exclusive to Inazuma, but it's definitely got it the worst. The cast just ain't it. You only interact with each other to further the story instead of any leisurely time or anything, though it's appropriate I guess. There is a war going on after all. Okay, that was pretty much half a conclusion, let's go to the real conclusion. Inazuma is my least favourite nation, but even it has charm to it, I still enjoy it. This was about both that charm and why I'm not so fond of it. If you enjoyed this, go watch my videos on Liyue, Mondstadt and why Mondstadt and Fontaine are connected. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you made it this far. I'm trying to make it on YouTube and support is appreciated. Have a good day and I hope you stay around for why Sumeru is an overwhelming masterpiece.